My name is Devin Chesney. I graduated in 2005 with a multidisciplinary degree in philosophy and theology. I decided to come to SNU for a couple of reasons. In high school, I really felt a calling to study theology, and growing up Nazarene, this seemed like the natural choice. Also, my parents both attended SNU, so it just seemed like a natural fit. My favorite memories about my time at SNU were just the community that I was a part of here. Life in the Bracken dorms was really great. It's just 8 of my closest friends living together and experiencing life together. And we did a lot of fun stuff like the softball marathon, 20 hours straight of softball. At one point I recall rappelling off of a nearby structure close to campus. My proudest achievement in college was winning the SNU-wide ping pong tournament. But the professor, I would say, that had the most impact on me was Dr. Montgomery in the philosophy department. He was my advisor for my junior and senior year, and he really taught me through all of his classes and his mentorship that not to be afraid of any questions and to always pursue knowledge fearlessly. So after I graduated, my career path was a little uncertain. I ended up working for nonprofits because I knew I wanted to do something to make the world a better place. I just felt like that was a really natural outgrowth of my faith and my theological education that I had here, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted that to be. Eventually I settled on the cause that really moved me was the global poor. So I decided I was going to study international development and applied to a bunch of different schools, and was fortunate enough to get into the University of Chicago. It was very strange because most of the people in that program were studying to be diplomats and work for the State Department and things like that, and I was the only person who really wanted to use this education to go and help make the world less poor. And so it was a unique experience, but one that I felt was sort of an extension of the call to ministry that I originally felt drew me to SNU. So for the last few years, I've been working with the United Nations World Food Program. They're a relief organization that both provides food where there's chronic hunger and responds to international disasters. One of the projects I was most proud to be a part of was the relief effort for Hurricane Haiyan in the Philippines last November. When the hurricane hit, we sort of immediately knew that it was going to be a big disaster, and the international aid picked up really quickly. And so part of my job is to pitch in for fundraising efforts in the U.S. And I ended up waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning so that I could run the numbers on how much money we had raised the prior day and let Rome know so that they could dispatch money to the field immediately. People's donations were getting there within 12 hours of being made, and it was just really exciting work. So the idea for Fairware originated around the Rana Plaza disaster that happened about 1.5 years ago in Bangladesh. I saw it was the worst disaster of an industrial kind in modern history. Over 1,200 people died. It was, a 6 or 8-story building collapsed, and a lot of people were trapped inside. There were thousands of injuries. And I was really deeply moved by it. But what I was even more impacted by was the fact that after about 4 or 5 days in the news, it just completely disappeared. And I thought, this isn't just a one-time problem. This is a massive structural issue with the way the world makes its clothes. And so that was where the idea came from, to try and come up with a way to promote fairly manufactured clothing on a large scale. The plan is to try and develop that into a certification program where companies can find out who makes their clothes and whether they meet certain standards, and then also a marketplace to sell a variety of brands that have been willing to go through the extra certification step in one place. My hope for Fairware is that really that it just raises the public's visibility. My goal is that people start to think about where their clothes are made. Clothing is something that everyone purchases, everyone owns clothing, everyone buys new clothing periodically. But it's rarely something that we think about as a moral act. But it has really profound implications in the world, and it affects thousands of people's lives every day. Every article that you buy was probably touched by 3-4 dozen people in the developing world. I absolutely see my work with Fairwear as a kind of calling. During my undergrad at SNU, I felt like the only calling I really contemplated was a calling in the church. And I worked in churches, and I was a youth pastor and an interim pastor and things like that. But I just never felt like that was really where God wanted me. My calling felt broader than that. And, I've always had a passion for international people and for, the beauty of the world and, all of creation. And so finding a way to bring about justice, it's really bringing about God's kingdom in my mind. This is the world as God would intend it to be. It is a world where people's labor is compensated fairly, and they have enough money to feed their children and send them to school and better themselves. And I see that completely as a natural outgrowth of my theology studies here at SNU and my faith more broadly.